Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explainer series. I am Kushagra Goel and warm greetings from Law Prep Tutorial. We understand that you have been having some concern regarding our a bit of unstretched or what you could say a not so regular time period, but however that was because of Holi disruption and also my personal health, but that is now behind us. From tomorrow onwards we'll be back to doing the live analysis by 10 a.m. every day. So from tomorrow onwards, this glitch will not be there on our side, and you will be able to do the daily analysis on a more earlier time period than what you are doing now. And we'll be doing away with this erratic time period. All right. So on that note, one of the major concerns that students had was about differentiating between what this digital currency or the digital Chinese official currency was and how is it differs from cryptocurrencies. All right. So for that, what I have decided is, because there is also another issue that is interlinked to the Chinese currency, something that is about artificial pricing of the currency in international markets, and why state control is something that cryptocurrencies try to avoid, precisely to do away with this kind of a event from taking place in future. So to discuss both those possibilities and why, and the pros and cons of a cryptocurrency vis-a-vis a digital official currency, I'll be doing an in-depth analysis of all of this tomorrow, because this is a legacy issue of something that China had been doing for a long time period, almost 3 decades, that is artificial pricing of the currency, and what mechanisms do you involve in doing that. All right, so stay tuned for this analysis tomorrow, and with that we will be able to also understand the benefits of cryptocurrencies vis-a-vis digital currencies. On that note, another doubt that students also had was regarding how do you differentiate between note making for current affairs and what becomes important for the revision. All right, so one things that you need to be aware of, your notes should always answer certain questions. What is the event? Where did it happen? Who were the parties involved? What are the consequences of it, and how does it affect India's situation? All right, so those are practically all factual questions. All right, so today we have a news regarding the summit that will be taking place, a conversation. All right, so I'll illustrate to you how do you make notes about all of this, and what all can you add in the notes that you have been making for the past 5 months. All right, this is something that I had been telling for the past 5 months anyway, that you have to always incorporate factual questions only, or factual data. That is precisely why we don't indulge in conversation or explanation about editorials that are from political theory perspective or political policy perspective. All right, so on that note, I'll begin with today's newspaper. So on the front page today is the voting for all the leftover assembly segments in Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Pondicherry, and the other phase of West Bengal elections also takes place today. So there will be a closure of campaigning in these states. All right, then on the left hand side there is news. Anil Deshmukh quits as High Court orders CBI probe. So this is regarding corruption allegations that a former commissioner has placed against his own home minister. All right, police department comes under home ministry. Now the High Court has ordered preliminary investigation into this. Now for sake of impartiality purposes, investigation will obviously be done by police officials. Now if you are the home minister, basically you are being a judge of your own case, and therefore on moral grounds he has resigned. Now we need to wait for this entire dispute to unfold the investigations. All right, but what becomes more important for us is a report regarding allegation of corruption by Dassault and another Indian company in the Rafale jet deal. We all know that in 2020 CLAT examination, one entire passage related to Rafale jet scheme, and how so you cannot completely discount the story altogether. All right, so yesterday also the Rafale jet was in news. Why was it in news? Because we were receiving other jets out of the 36 that are due to be delivered to India. All right, but this is about the deal that took place. All right, so I'll be doing a in-depth analysis of this today, what this allegation is, all right, and how does it differentiate from the Supreme Court judgment. All right, then on the left hand side is the news of Foreign Minister of Russia, Sergei Lavrov, who will be visiting India. Along with him will also be the special envoy of Moscow on Afghanistan, that is Zamir Kabulov. All right, so they will be meeting not only the External Affairs Minister but also the Prime Minister for briefing. Now, why is it important? For two things. First is regarding the peace process in Afghanistan. Russia recently hosted the Triokia Plus conversation about Afghanistan peace, under which India was not invited. At the same time, there is proposal of a UN-backed resolution for Afghanistan. And we already know that the deadline is May 1 for withdrawal of other US troops. So therefore, this will be the chance for Russian minister to brief India about what conversation has taken place about Afghan peace process, because for the UN backed one, India is a member of that conversation and the Afghan government wants India to be at the table. So therefore it is important for trust building measures to see how things are being decided or deliberated upon. The second thing also becomes important is we know that Russia and China recently announced that they will also involve regional like-minded countries that want to stand up to the hypocrisy of Western allies or groupings. What grouping was in question, or the signal was related to Quad. So this could be the time period for them to also iron out the differences or reduce the trust deficit between the two countries. All right, so that is another thing. The visit will also coincide with the visit of John Kerry. Who is John Kerry? He is the environmental appointee of US special representative for climate change. A climate summit a virtual climate summit will take place on April 22-23, hosted by United States. So all those things are on the agenda, but the most prominent one becomes the Afghan peace process itself. All right. So now, for example, if an announcement is made, what you need to note down from such a headline is what is the event. This is about a conversation, visit of Russian foreign minister to India. What are the information, who are involved? Russian foreign minister plus the envoy of Moscow on Afghanistan. What is the agenda? Afghan peace process, trust deficit regarding regional groupings, and the climate change summit that US will be hosting. So 3 events. How or what are the details about this? That in the background of it is the conversation of Russia hosting the Triokia Plus. So you need to link this event along with that, or have this in the heading of Afghanistan peace process altogether. So all of this will come within that entire heading if you want to do it that way. All right. So there is your link to this, and that is how you should make notes or interconnect questions. All right. Then moving on, apart from that, on the national front, more updates from the farmer protest and vaccination. All right. And then moving on to the editorial front. The editorial front on the left hand side is the South phase. So much at stake for left and Congress in Kerala and other regional parties in Tamil Nadu. We know that this will be the conclusion of election polling in assembly segments of Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Pondicherry. All right. So therefore, this editorial is what is the space of politics there and whereabout regarding that. Turning to the left hand side one, the alchemy of anti-incumbency. Anti-incumbency is a wave that the general electorate feels when a government is being put on ballot once again. So let's say a government has been running for past 5 years, they have been in power. The anti-incumbency is basically the feeling that have they done good enough job, or should we give someone else a chance? So that those kinds of questions come under the anti-incumbency wave. Now the editorial links out how the anti-incumbency is being faced by the Trinamool Congress. The Trinamool Congress has been in power in West Bengal for the past 10 years. So the anti-incumbency is expected to be higher. Whenever a party has been in power for a longer time period, they have far more baggage, far more questions to address, and far more redressal of issues of the voters if they have been alienated. So those questions in this editorial regarding what is the overall analysis. For us, none of this is actually important, therefore I am skipping this, right? So before we turn to the main one, on the left hand side, persistent mindlessness. What is this related to? This is related to the mindlessness of the Maoist movement that has been going on in India, all right, the origins of which are in the 1970s and has intensified since the post 21st century time period. Now, why is this in news? Is because of the attack on the central forces that took place by the Maoists. Now, this attack is alleged to have been conducted by the 1st Battalion of the Naxals, headed by tribal leader known as Hidma. It is supposed that the central forces were moving in the area to actually capture this individual itself, but the tables turned altogether. Now, questions have to be raised about how the security intelligence or the apparatus was not able to decipher such a large grouping of Maoists in the area. The area is supposed to be under or policed or taken control over by the central forces, so they are the one who are in charge. And any attack on the central forces, questions are to be raised about what kind of intelligence input was already available, and were there signs of risk of the cavalier moving in, all right? So the most important thing regarding what we can understand from this incident is, one, as the Home Minister of India has also pointed out and the Chief Minister of Chhattisgarh yesterday, that this shows the desperation of the Maoists. However, Maoists thrive on doing such guerrilla warfare attacks and picket weapons and bulletproof vest or any other equipment that they can find. The purpose of them attacking such big grouping of central forces is basically to get more arms and ammunition for themselves, and therefore they use the guerrilla warfare techniques, all right? So the purpose here is this of the Maoists. The second thing is, where did the incident took place, which was the Sukma district, and what are the larger ramifications of the event. Naxal violence has claimed approximately 10,000 lives, and it is believed that a pure military solution is not possible, because the rise or sympathy towards Naxal movement is only because of alienation of the tribal people who live in these remote areas. Now, Naxals ensure that their alienation or remoteness remains, and it is the endeavor of the government apparatus to ensure this alienation goes away, all right? So those are two sides of the spectrum. For us, on a factual side, the place where the attack took place, who has been alleged to have been involved in the attack, becomes important, all right? Then turning to the left hand side one, the pillars of an equitable post-COVID India. We know that inequality in India is high, and at the same time, recent reports also state how overall poverty is on the rise, and a lot of people from middle class have dropped to the lower strata of the society. Now, regarding this, there are three suggestions in the editorial that needs to be understood for us. The first one is about creation of jobs. That how can inequality be addressed? The first one is when you create more sustainable jobs. Jobs create income, income creates demand, and demand leads to growth of the economy. All right. Then the second side is regarding equality of opportunity. So equality of opportunity for healthcare and education, those are known as public goods. When there is a facility to access public goods, that is where it reduces the risk or makes the lives of people far more sustainable. It makes them self-sufficient and enhances their skill set. All right. So that is the second thing. And the last one is one that matters to us far more and which can create a lot more doubts, which is about expanding the tax base of the union. So how do governments ensure that better healthcare facility, education facilities are there, or how do you create jobs? You create jobs, for example, through infrastructural projects. But to do that also you need money. How do you get money? How do governments get money is the tax. And it is the tax vis-a-vis GDP ratio, that how much tax are you able to collect based on the size of your GDP, is one that ensures how much revenue governments have. The second thing is the tax base. What is a tax base? Tax base is the total population that is actually paying taxes. So India has two kinds of taxes, direct taxes and indirect taxes, right? Direct taxes are those that are charged on your income tax. Indirect taxes are those that are charged, for example, you went to the general store, bought a packet of Maggi. Now in that, when you buy that, you also pay certain tax. Now it is not independent on your income, it is based on your actual purchase of a good. So those kinds of taxes. So that is the total tax base. When you expand the tax base, the revenue of the government rises, and then the first two things can be addressed. So these concepts become far more important than the actual policy. Turning to the OPED page, on the left hand side, US and China need each other. What is this about? This is that there is a high interdependence between US and China. Whatever be the rhetoric of US saying we'll put sanctions on you, you have been indulging in malpractices, you have been doing unfair trade practices, the trade between US and China has still remained. There is a competition between US and China. China is on the path to become the largest economy of the world, and therefore the risk of US losing relevance or preeminent status in the society or the world affairs becomes in question. However, for all the rhetoric of each country accusing the other of malpractices, the overall bottom line from the OPED that you can understand is that these countries need each other, that China is the hub of manufacturing and cheap labor and also rare earth metals, and therefore the dependency of US for the industries that exist in the US economy is far more. China in itself also needs the capital that is parked in the Western countries. So there is a high interdependence for all the rhetoric that happens in these conversation. What is in light of this? It is the Alaska conversation where US and China sat together to discuss their problems. In that, what they agreed that all right, we have our concerns, but we need to work together on climate change, COVID-19, Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, G20, health, cyber security, and Afghanistan. So this shows that there is a high interdependence. Each of these countries cannot get anything done for their self-interest without engaging with the other. All right. So that is what is there in this OPED. Turning to the left one, in Kerala, the church is a crucial politics playoff. Now this is regarding Kerala's internal elections, how the church and its followers or the clerics involved, how that affects the political dynamics in the state of Kerala, not relevant for us. Then the last one, free and unhindered justice. What is this about? This is about access to justice. Post COVID-19 lockdowns, courts have been working virtually. What this has led to is higher access to the Supreme Court beyond the geographical location of Delhi. Because of the geographical location, states that are closer to Delhi have far more litigation that approach towards the Supreme Court. And also, because of physical limitation of the court, the one thing that happens is it creates a hegemony of the lawyers in and around the Delhi region. However, a solution to that has always been present in our Indian constitution ever since the constitution came into place, which is Article 130 of the Indian constitution. What is that? It is the seat of the Supreme Court, that the Supreme Court will be placed in Delhi or any other place that the Chief Justice of India decides to do. And it is this power that has not been exercised by any Chief Justice till now, that the seat of Supreme Court has always remained at the at Delhi, and has never, no circuit or other benches of Supreme Court have been appointed or created to reduce caseload burden or provide access. So beyond the geographical location, virtual court hearings have provided that avenue to people to approach the court, is what the op-ed discusses. One thing that needs to be noted down for all of you is Article 130 and the power to have the seat of the Supreme Court. All right. So turning to the other national news, on the left hand side is the details about the Rafale and what corruption allegations have been placed on, to which I'll be doing an in-depth analysis. Turning to the other national news, on the left hand side, Supreme Court frowns on interim heads for CBI. So CBI is the investigative agency for specialized purposes. It is a not specifically related to any particular state police. It is supposed to be a independent investigative agency that can even engage on questions against the government or government officials or government personnel. So therefore, the question now has been that for a past time period, a permanent appointee to the CBI has not taken place. The director of CBI position has to be selected by a member, a 3-member committee, which is that it is the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India, and the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha. However, this committee has not met, and till then, an interim director is appointed. What is the question, or why is interim director a problem? Because interim directors are at the mercy of the executive. The point of having a 3-member panel to appoint a CBI director is to reduce executive control over the CBI. That the person who is nominated to CBI, who takes all the decisions regarding how CBI functions, should not be at the mercy of the executive, but to an impartial panel. But as we have interim CBI executives, they are directly appointed by the executive. So one, it reduces or blurs the line on separation of power, plus it reduces the efficiency of the system of checks and balances. So Supreme Court has stated that, see, this practice of interim CBI heads cannot go on. Recently only the government deferred the meeting of discussion regarding the new CBI director to May 2nd. The allegation is this was done by the court to not let the current incumbent CJI to take seat. Why? Because the current CJI retires on April 23rd. But what becomes most important is the mechanism of how a CBI director is to be appointed, and why is it important for an impartial permanent CBI director to be in charge. Turning to the other news on the national front, on the left hand side is the news, INS Virat now a private property of shipbreaker. So INS Virat was granted to one particular company for scraps and was to be dismantled. 40% of the ship had already been scrapped when other parties approached the court to convert INS Virat into a museum recreational center. It is on this slide on the petition that Supreme Court stayed the scrapping of the ship further. We did an in-depth analysis of the history of INS Virat when that news had come out. We will provide the link to that in the description box today, so check that out. Now the court has stated that, see, we cannot grant you the ship because it is now a private property. You need to either approach the person who has purchased the ship, or it is their prerogative whether they want to sell you or not. The court cannot decide, so that is something that is now sub judice. We need to wait. On the left hand side is far more important news. What is this about? This is the world's highest railway bridge. Where is it being built? It is being built in India on the Chenab bridge, which is part of the Udhampur Srinagar Baramulla rail link project. So what is the project which has the world's highest railway link bridge? It is the Udhampur Srinagar Baramulla railway link project. All right. This bridge will be 35 meters higher than the Eiffel Tower in Paris and is important to complete the stretch of 111 kilometers, which stretches from Katra to Banihal. All right. So the bridge overall at the cost of 1,400 crore and can withstand speed up to 266 km per hour. The bridge is located at the height from seabed is 359 meters. So that is the height at which the bridge is being built. All right. So the arc has now been built, and from below this you can now lay the track. All right. So that is the project. This becomes important. It is a strategically important railway link project to provide railway access to the hilly regions of the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Turning to the international news. So on the left hand side, there is update from Jordan. The crown prince there has defied or is in defiant mode that he will not follow the house arrest orders, and that is the only update. We need to see how the crisis unfolds. However, on the left hand side, there is now clarity regarding Afghan peace process. So the UN brokered peace process to which India is a part. The President of Afghanistan has stated he will present his case for peace proposal in Afghanistan at that meet. The date for the meet has not yet been decided. It should be in the month of April. And the proposal is to have a ceasefire, internationally agreed ceasefire between Afghanistan and Taliban, and place an interim government till the time eventual elections take place to determine how power will be distributed or divided in Afghanistan. So that is the claim of Afghanistan president. We need to wait for that meeting to take place. We have already discussed this UN-backed process and how and which all countries are involved in it. It is supposed to take place in Turkey. When is the question that needs to be decided. Then on the left hand side, Netanyahu sees prospects phase as his graft trial resumes. Why is this election important from Benjamin Netanyahu? This was the fourth election in 2 years in Israel. Why is it important? Because holding the position of prime minister in Israel gives you immunity from prosecution for any crime. So as long as Benjamin Netanyahu remained in the position of prime minister, he would have gotten immunity. However, his party was unable to get a majority, and now as government formation talks take place, no party is willing to extend or provide him with the position of prime minister. So we need to wait for this development to take place as to who actually takes over government. On the side of Russia, Russian legislature has done away with the constitutional limitation on the number of tenures a candidate could run. Based on this, now Vladimir Putin will be able to run for 2 more tenures and probably remain in office till 2026. So earlier there was a restriction of 2 terms. Now first that was revoked, then further restrictions were revoked. So that ensures him to be in power till 2026. He has stated that he will decide whether to run or not in 2024. Now, what all the other things that were passed under this constitutional amendment were also the primacy of Russian law over international norms. Secondly, ban on same-sex marriages. And third, belief in God. This is Vladimir Putin's posturing towards the Russian church to have their support as he remains in power for so long. The main opposition, that was Alexei Navalny, he has been behind bars, and the overall election process was also supposed to have been rigged. Nevertheless, now it is an established fact that there is no real democracy in Russia, that there is no space for opposition, and voter fraud is possible there. Plus, whosoever is in power, which has been Vladimir Putin ever since, which will, if he runs the office till this time period, he will become the longest running person in power in Russia. All right. Then moving on the left hand side, update from Vietnam. Vietnam has now sworn in a new president and a new prime minister. Who is that individual? Nguyen Xuan Phuc is the person who will take over as the president of Vietnam. And the new prime minister will be Pham Minh Chinh. Vietnam is also a similar structure to the Communist Party in China. There is a Communist Party of Vietnam, and internal elections take place, power is shared by the president, the prime minister, and the general secretary of the party. So it is all within the communist fold that these decisions are taken place, but the person in change is something that needs to be taken a note of. Then apart from that, turning to the economic and the sporting front, nothing of note apart from more update that manufacturing index or manufacturing growth has nose dived in the last month. What this shows is that as more and more curbs take place, night curfews, weekend lockdowns take place, working in factories will reduce further and puts water on the fire, that is economic growth is what is expected. On the sporting front, nothing of note to be noted down. So turning to the in-depth analysis. Now, what I am going to explain today is what the report is. Alright, so what was the Rafale deal? In 2016, Prime Minister of India was on a visit to France. It is at this time period that he announced a deal between government of France and government of India that India will be purchasing 36 flyaway jets, the Rafale. That 36 of these jets will be purchased by India on a flyaway condition. So that was the deal. The defense minister was not in the know-how of this or was not involved. It was directly the PMO that brokered the deal for the Rafale jets because of depleting numbers of fighter squadrons in India. As MiG-21 and 29 fade away or are decommissioned, the overall strength of Air Force was reducing. So therefore, for that, 2 squadrons, so 36 means 2 squadrons of Rafale jet would have been purchased in flyaway condition. But now, details have come up in France regarding one thing. So just like any other corporate company submits its data, Dassault Aviation, the company that was building the Rafale jets, also furnished details of the deal and how much money it has incurred when you submit your annual financial statement. So the anti-corruption agency of France has now discovered that Dassault Aviation was to pay an Indian company, DEF System Solution, approximately 20,000 euros per jet to build not the 36 Rafale jets but actually create 50 models of Rafale C. That to have presentation and all of this, 50 models of Rafale jet, which is Rafale C, were to be built by DEF System Solution. It is this that details of what models were purchased, where were they placed, what is the size of this model, what are the details of these models, none of this has been furnished by Dassault Aviation. It is this that evidence of or lack of evidence of this deal is what is now being questioned in the media report. This investigation or details of this finding of AFA has been reported in Mediapart, which is a media group based in France. So they have published the findings that Dassault Aviation provided no proof for the transaction of building 50 models of Rafale C to DEF System Solution. It is believed that this transaction was a cover-up for the bribes that were given to DEF System Solution. DEF System Solution is a company based in India. They have already been under scanner in another defense-related deal. What is that defense-related deal? Augusta Westland VVIP chopper deal. It is under this that Enforcement Directorate have already arrested and taken custody of the head of the company, that is Sushen Mohan Gupta, and he is right now out on bail. So the same company that was in question for another deal for having documents that were not or top secret documents with Defense Ministry plus lobbying and bribes that were paid. So basically it is believed that this deal was a cover-up for the bribes that were paid to DEF System Solution as per Mediapart. Now, apart from this transaction, DEF System Solution is also a offset partner. So the jets that will come to India were manufactured in France. However, maintenance of fighter jets is something that comes along with it. So the parts for maintenance, that was known as the offset contract. It is DEF System Solution that is also a company that has been granted some part of this offset contract. All right. So it is one particular part of the contract or expenditure that Dassault Aviation has given to DefSys Solution that is under scanner. So this is what the report is, and this finding was not available before the Supreme Court when the decision regarding Rafale jet deal had been made. Alright, so first thing, this is what the report is. And this was the deal. This was a direct government to government deal. So there was no need for such models to be created. The government of India or the PM House had already agreed to purchase 36 such jets. So there is no rational need to have these models. Usually you produce models to put them in expos or display to explain to the officials why they should purchase one jet over the others. Now, because this was a direct government to government deal between France and Indian government, why was there need for this models, or what were these models? What is the proof that these were created or not, which is lacking? And therefore, the question is regarding the deal, as the money that has been paid is significant. The money that Dassault paid to DefSys is something that the Indian government paid to Dassault altogether. So this is like Indian money. So the government's money is basically people's money, and that is what is now being given to whom and why is what is under question. So today this is the report regarding Rafale. This is distinct from the judgment that the Supreme Court gave out regarding Rafale jet. Tomorrow I will be doing the issues that the Supreme Court discussed in that particular deal. All right. So on that note, I will conclude for the day. In today's newspaper, one of the report regarding the Rafale investigation becomes important. And apart from that, the talks that are to take place between Russian Foreign Minister and India's Foreign External Affairs Minister, along with the conversation and the change in Prime Minister and President at Vietnam, plus the conversation of Afghanistan, are things that you need to note down. On that note, I will conclude for the day. Thank you so much and take care of yourselves.